we up to today? Well, I had some people sneaking onto my property, and they don't seem to like the police. And I have a lot of extra LEDs, namely red and blue ones. So I thought I might try and make a little deterrent device. So one of the other things I have a few of are these prototype boards, and I have about probably 60 or so DigiSpark modules. I also happen to have an excess of transistors, namely some 2N3904s, which are surplus from Geiger Counter project. So, what's the plan with all these? Well, I think I'll program up my DigiSpark to flash 2 pins in 3 pulses in whatever pattern I like. And in a case, I can change the pattern. I'm not stuck with it like a flip-flop circuit, just flipping between 1 and 2. I can make a more realistic and convincing flashing red and blue light that flashes in the same combination as our local coppers do, or police. That's how cops got their name, as coppers. And for reference, that comes from the UK, where police of the time would wear big brass buttons or big copper buttons. They got known as coppers, and that over time has been abbreviated to cops. So I stick to the archaic translation of that and call them coppers. Anyway, and there is a little rhyme that goes, what's the colour of a 2-cent piece? Copper, copper. But anyway, that's another story for another time. You can hear my neighbours too. Sorry about them, but yeah. So I've done a quick little test circuit with a 2N3904 here. So let's go over what's happening here. So I'm taking positive from our 12 volts straight through our transistor without a resistor in line, I might add. I'm pushing this circuit a little bit hard. I have a 120 ohm resistor on the input, probably way more than is required to run into this, but again, I've got lots of them laying around, so if I blow it up, it's not the end of the world. On the output side, I have it coming straight back to a negative rail, and our input from our DigiSpark is also going to the base of the 2N3905 through 120 ohm resistor as well, just so I don't blow the gate up, or the base rather. So yeah, and for the record, I used to always get this backwards. I used to get collector and emitter backwards. What it's actually doing is it is emitting electrons on one side of the transistor and collecting them on the other, and then letting them out. So I used to always get it wrong. So what's the next step? Well, I made a test board. I've produced this earlier just to make this video a bit quicker. So I have 2 3904s. I have 2 resistors on the output legs to directly drive a string of LEDs, and I've got a red and a blue here for testing. I've positioned the pads such that if I can do this, I've got the shakes from MS at the moment, so bear with me. But yeah, normally I can position this on the board. And my grand plan was to do this on camera, real time, and not look like a fool. Anyway, that can now live on there with the USB connection exposed for further upgrades should I wish to do so. Everything packs in there fairly nicely. Now the DigiSpark does have a built-in regulator, so I can feed it 12 volts, not much more. I think 15 is about its max. And I dropped it on the floor. Under desk lights are fun. But yes, my dexterity is starting to fail a little bit. So anyway, we can program them up and test it. All I've got to do for this at the moment is hook up a couple of power connections and then program a DigiSpark with a test code. But before we do that, we can actually test this. So if I give myself 12 volts here, and excuse the fan in the background, that's my extraction fan. So if we give this 12 volts across these pins, we should see that if I put my fingers across here, I'll turn the main lights off. Oh, we've got a connection somewhere I didn't expect. So let's go fix that. From here, we'll try again. I do have a problem with one of these latching on. I think the resistance might not be quite enough to hold it on, or there might be a bit of flux on the board. But you can see when I put my fingers across these 2 pins, there's enough to trigger the gate a little bit, or trigger the base slightly. So I think this will work, but I do need to find out why that LED is doing that. Alright, so I've done a little bit of work, I've done a bit of programming, and I've got this DigiSpark just loosely positioned there. I should see it fire up in a moment. There we go, now we've got red and blue lights. And that message tone you might hear faintly in the background is actually a rapper friend of mine who might actually contribute some title music to the end of this video too, that might be appropriate to the red and blue lights. Alright, so while this is now it's done, I'm going to disconnect the connections and we're going to solder all this in. And I'm going to need some extraction. But yeah, the idea is to get the DigiSpark on these pins, just take a bit of heat. But fortunately the solder mask helps. We don't need to solder all these pins in, really only power pins and pins 1 and 2. I'm not going to bother going into detail because I'm trying to keep this quick. About the programming code, I've basically just modified the blink example in the Arduino libraries. Nothing fancy at all about it. Oh, that was bad. I almost had a solder bridge to a capacitor on the board. So now if we hook up an extra fan and fire this up, we should see it fire up and flash red and blue. Or smoke. Red and blue, red and blue. Alright, now we have to add a whole bunch of extra LEDs. And hopefully we'll keep going till we blow up a transistor and I'll have to start again. Alright, so I got into the blink code and I changed it after I've soldered it on the board. And let's see what it looks like now. Give it a moment. There we go, 3 flashes in either alternating pattern. That's what I want. And I'm driving the LEDs fairly hard so they should be bright enough to be noticeable, especially on a dark night. Alright, let's go ahead and stack a whole heap more LEDs on this. Alright, we have the final product finished. I kind of got sick of sticking LEDs in there and I was starting to get to the capacity of the transistors by the time I was finished, but it works anyway. So I'll leave you with a short clip from a mate of mine that I think would be appropriate to this little project.
Lead mob, rapper die, broke squad, E. Jacobs on the beat. I'm an atheist cause I don't believe in myself. The afterlife don't exist, but I'm speeding through hell. Yeah, I wish I was a champion receiving the belt, but I don't sing rap with auto-tune, just busting bars like felt. A living legend in the atmosphere. The rapture passes best here. Go tell your guys to fuck themselves. I ain't got time for faking fear, and I ain't afraid to take it there. I'm blasphemous as fuck, tell the pastor Jesus was a queer. Like I lost a pair of boxes, bitch, I'ma leave you underwear. Pass your easel, pass the paint, I'll paint a perfect picture to illustrate my parallel pain. The predator, punk, and the prey, playing the part of the plague. The paradox is packaged in a panoply of plasmic pages. Anybody doubting cause the views is plenty pompous and played. And I've proven skills in battle if you peep what I publish. Breaking bones of any rapper acting thuggish and rugged. You ain't harmonious when you bucking and gunning, cause you faking playing gangster like a criminal on Law and Order. Waiting nervous and patient like a soldier on Korean borders. For the war of looming like a seamstress sewing clothes.